So, welcome. I'd like to welcome Kelly. She's been a dear patient of mine for how many years has it been?
It's been 11 years.
11 years. I'm really happy she came in to talk to us. She's got a great story, story of issues in the past, like many of us have had, and then her triumph beating things. But so I wanted to open up to you, Kelly, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. So, gosh, I have had a lot of struggles in the past. I started struggling with depression and anxiety, towards the end of high school, and it continued into college. And when I graduated from college, it really became a big problem. And I started medicating with alcohol.
Mm-hmm. About how old were you then?
Well,
with college.
I graduated when I was 21,
Okay.
and I was drinking, and I felt like I was drinking like everyone else.
Right.
I didn't understand what the disease of alcoholism was. I've always been a very determined person. I got into UCLA. I've run marathons. I didn't understand.
Ran a marathon?
I ran 2.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, anyone can. But I didn't understand the power of the disease. And, in my mind, I could control and anything, I could, if I set my mind to it, I could do it. And it was my little secret, and that's how I felt like I could control it. And obviously, if you have struggled with alcoholism, you know the progression, you know the power, you know that it's there really isn't anything you can do but surrender to something that's just so much bigger than yourself. And I went through many obstacles. A lot of bad things happened, as they do when you're abusing a substance that isn't good for you. Mm-hmm. And and it was just a constant battle because it was my answer to depression. I literally felt like, how am I going to live without my medicine? Because when like you can't live with it, you can't live without it.
And that's what we call it, self-medicating.
Yeah. And, when I go without it, I'm running. I was physically running, not running from something.
Right.
But I'm alone. And, I can only do that for so long. Then I pick up a drink and I feel a part of. And, but that's definitely not good either. Mm-hmm. So I, luckily I did sober up when I was 34, when I got pregnant with my daughter. And
how did you get sober?
Well, I got pregnant, and that was compelling enough for me. And I lived in a small town. I lived in Mammoth, and I needed that kind of accountability. I needed, because I was really a closet drinker. It was all secrets. People would say, don't go to a bar. Or I'm like, I haven't gone to a bar. And
right.
So I got pregnant with my daughter, and that, that started my journey, as far as sobriety, AA, and that, was very helpful. But about 3 years sober, I was talking to a friend of mine who's one of your clients, and I said, God, I'm just, everything's good. I have a good job. My daughter's amazing, and,
mm-hmm.
I feel so good about my sobriety, but I still feel like, I just feel flat, and I feel uninspired, and it's not that I want to drink, but, I struggle with this. I have a mother who's an ultra optimist. Mm-hmm. And, I watch her and see just how passionate she is about life. And,
mm-hmm.
and I don't feel that way. And she referred me to you. And I was absolutely willing. I had seen a number of doctors in my 20s, mm-hmm. Who prescribed me, everything you could, Zoloft, whatever, Prozac, Cymbalta, whatever, all of them, and it was always prefaced with, well, you're going to have to give this at least a month, and and when you're really depressed, a month is a long time, and but here I would try, and without any result, and I felt so discouraged and defeated. And so when I did meet you, it was like there was some hope, because what I really appreciated about you was that I could feel your passion and your willingness to want to, it wasn't even your desire, just you knew that that if it's the right medication, it's going to work for you within a number of days, not a month. And that was, I'd never heard of that before. And you said, I'm going to call you in 3 days. If this isn't working, we'll try something else. And I'd never heard that before. And I have bragged about you to so many people because for that reason, that that you want to help, and you believe in medication working for people, and it did. I mean, I think we did try a few medications, but came up with something that has worked for me. I have had struggles, but I am not the same person I was. I'm not the depressed, what am I, I can't face life. I have to hide. I have to, be, I can't go to social events. I am who I am. My personality is that I'm more of an introvert, and I can be shy, but I'm comfortable. And it's a miracle, really. It's a miracle. And the reason I do refer you, or I brag about you, because, gosh, I want other people to feel that way. And I think that, a lot of people are opposed to medication, and my feeling is, oh my gosh, take advantage of technology. And, we're not all chemically, we don't all have the chemicals that other people do, or what, and so it can really change your life to have the right formula. And you are very, very good at that. And I just appreciate all your help.
You've referred some patients to me also. Another, actually, one we've had on the show already. She also had a really difficult past, difficult history. Couple things you say. I talk a lot about family history. Where do you see depression or anxiety running in your family?
My mother is one of 6 kids, and her mother was an alcoholic. And one of my aunts, who, she doesn't struggle with alcoholism, but she does struggle with depression. And we've had in-depth conversations that, in their family, it just, you don't talk about it. And she said, I guarantee that her other siblings have struggled with it, but it's just not something that people, it's a hush-hush thing, right? You can't, people look down on that, or the family looks down on that, and there's this stigma attached to depression. Oh, please, get it, come on. So I do believe that it's associated with that side of the family.
Something you mentioned that's very key, and this is a myth in this field, is what you said. I think most doctors will tell patients, it takes this 4 to 6 to 8 weeks to work. Very discouraging to hear that, because when you're feeling, like you said, when you're feeling the way you feel, you don't want to wait that long. It's never been true. I've discovered this very early on, that the right medication, maybe the wrong medication might be slower, but even the slower medication, like an SSRI, like Zoloft and Lexapros and those, at the most 1 to 2 weeks to work. Especially if you get the dosing right. And so this whole notion of waiting all this time is ridiculous. Also, a lot of doctors go way too slow. They start at a little baby dose and they say, oh, we'll see you back in a month or two. And then, oh, you're a little bit better. Okay, then we'll increase the dose a little more. Okay, so it takes like 6 months sometimes to get the dosing right even. And they're not realizing that we can make quick decisions and quick changes. But a lot of doctors don't get that in training. They don't hear it. They don't read about it. This is one of the reasons early on when I was starting writing my first book is that I started to see this is not making sense. Why are these medications working quickly? So the right medication, like what you're on, like Effexor and things like Wellbutrin, we're talking 2 to 4 days to start working. Now, it may not be the right dose, but you should see something. But that definitely within a week to 2 weeks at the very most, we should see results. But you have to be, as a doctor, you got to be aggressive. You can't just be, piddling around with these little tiny doses. Unless it works. I mean, some people you have to start there with everyone. You got to start the low dose, but you got to get the dose right. And otherwise, you're gonna, people lose hope, people don't want to go from medication to medication to medication before you find the right one. It's not going to last that long, So that's a very important thing for people to hear is that because I think people hear it, they get discouraged, they hear it from friends, they read about it online, and it's never true. It's never been true. But even the modern psychiatric textbooks will say that. And I never understood that. I've never understood that thinking, and I've never understood this. Come on, we've learned since then. Why can't we change how we do things? And it's just not easy for doctors to change how they do things.
I really appreciated you explaining to me how the Wellbutrin, which works on another receptor, I forget,
dopamine.
The dopamine, and the other's works on the other receptors, and how in conjunction the two work better together than just prescribing one SSRI, and how Wellbutrin can really have a positive effect.
What you're on, I call the dynamic duo of medications. Effexor Wellbutrin, Proseq Wellbutrin. Now and again, Wellbutrin's not for everybody, but when it's not good, we take it away. But when it's great, it's great. And with Effexor, you got serotonin, norepinephrine. With the Wellbutrin, you got dopamine. And that combination, those two balance 3 chemicals all at one time, and that's why I discovered that 30 some years ago about mixing them. And when I did it, I didn't read about it because there was nothing written about it. I started as a family doctor back in the early 90s, and so I didn't even start doing this. I learned a lot just on my own, just figuring things out, because I was trying to read things and I just wasn't, I was confused because what I'm seeing has nothing, what they're saying there makes no sense to me at all. So that's what led me to, doing this full time. Is after about 10 years of being a family doctor, I realized that, I need to keep doing this. I can't do everything anymore. I have to focus my time on doing what I'm passionate about. I have to do this because, I like being a family doctor, but you don't see the dramatic difference in people's lives you can make doing this. You get people, you help people, you see families, all that, which is good, but but I thought there's a lot of family doctors out there, they can do that. And that's what led to me writing. Is I just thought after a while, I gotta get this stuff down on paper, because who's going to believe me? I thought, who's going to believe this family doctor making these discoveries that aren't written anywhere else I can see? And that's what led me to writing at the time. I didn't realize how many books I'd write. At the time when I started, I just thought I have to start writing, and so I just kept going. Going back to you before high school, college, how did you do when you were like a child or middle school? How was your mood then?
So as a child, I was an extreme perfectionist, and I, as I've gotten older, I have a perspective about it now, and I think it was contributed to being shy and just there. I was afraid. I was always afraid of doing something wrong. And so I was, we learn what we learn as kids, right? We learn to walk, we learn to talk, right? And so I learned this behavior of controlling my environment. But what I recognize is that I could only do that for so long. And so when I got into high school, right, it's like you can control things, in a smaller world, right? Like I could control my room being all, perfect. I could control getting straight A's. And then high school, I still kind of had some control, but there were circumstances that happened. My parents split up, and I was horribly depressed.
Well, when was the first age you remember feeling depressed? How?
When I was 15.
15? Yeah.
I remember.
So early high school then. Yeah.
I remember it was going into my junior year, and I just remember I couldn't wait to get home and go in my room and shut the door. And, and I look back and think, God, that's so sad. Like here I should have been, I was a cheerleader. I went to a wonderful Catholic high school. I was very fortunate. But none of it mattered. And you could have said to me, Kelly, here's $1 million, right? Do whatever you want to do. What do you want to do? You want to go somewhere? I would have said, no. There was just
put in the bank, yeah.
Or just, I just didn't have any inspiration. Right. I didn't have any passion. I was indifferent. I felt so sad about it. Like, why do I feel this way? Why? And I kept it to myself. And I actually remember my mom, my mom had Prozac in her purse. And I got so upset because I saw her as so happy. And I'm like...
That's one of the reasons she was happy.
And probably, right?
Yeah.
And I went, oh my God, why don't you give me this? And it was at the time, let's see, I was probably, I graduated in 94. So let's say it's 92. Prozac was kind of a new thing. Like people didn't really talk about.
It came out I think in 88 or so, right? About 88. So it was out probably a few years at that point.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think finding the Prozac in your mom's purse is probably one of the reasons why she was happy. I mean, there's probably other reasons, but anyways, tell me more about what you were saying about finding that and what you were thinking at that time.
I felt just so down and sad. And I felt, now I know it's clinical depression. I was clinically depressed, and but at 15, I don't know what clinical depression is. I don't know what, and I did struggle with anxiety. I would get extremely social anxiety, nervous around in groups or,
very common.
I could like someone, I could have a crush on someone, and I would run when I saw them. I would run into the bathroom. I was just painfully, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so when I found that, I felt like, oh my gosh, you don't need this. I need this.
Little did you know that actually her taking that was one of the reasons why, because of the genetics, And some people say to me, well, I don't have any family history, but my mom was always a happy person. But yeah, okay, she took Prozac, and so there is family history. And then there's alcoholism is very common in people's family history too, self-medicating.
I have it on both sides.
Yeah.
I've got the Irish on my dad's, and then,
The drinking gene there?
Yeah, you know what? I do believe it's a disease, and that it is hereditary.
Yeah. So tell me more about what you're saying.
About high school or about?
Yeah. So after that, again, college, exploring college again, because again, most people drink in college. That's part of the culture of college. When did you start to notice that it was getting a little bit out of control?
I'm very stubborn, and I'm, hard-headed, and I had a hard time admitting it for a while. But looking back, oh my gosh, I went to college, and, I definitely, every time, I never had a social drink. I never, okay, that's enough. When I drank, I had the allergy. And I kept drinking, and it was medicating. It's like I was struggling internally with the depression, the anxiety, the fear of ever asking for help. That would terrify me. And so a drink, it felt like the perfect medicine, although, it always progresses and it never gets better, it only gets worse. So I did drink throughout college, and more than other people. I look back and I see that I'm not proud of it. I did manage to graduate in 4 years, and really when it hit hard was when I graduated from college, and the anxiety of what am I going to do with my life? And to go on an interview terrified me. And I remember my first interview, I had such severe anxiety. I was shaking, and I went and I bought alcohol to have to calm my nerves.
Takes away the shakes. Yep.
And to calm my nerves. And I knew that none of this was normal. I knew that this isn't what people did, but I thought this was going to be my little secret. And I could only do it for so long. And, I remember when I first asked for help, and I was 25, and it was the first time I ever experienced alcohol withdrawal. And my hands, I woke up, it was Christmas Day, and my hands were quivering, and I didn't know what that meant, but I knew what I'd been doing. And
but how did you stop? You decided to stop on your own then, or?
No, I had been drinking, but I woke up that morning, and obviously I needed more. I had a tolerance where I needed to keep beating it.
Right.
And I woke up that morning, and it was scary. It was very scary because I knew what I'd been doing, and I had no idea, what it meant.
When you felt the shaking, did you drink like early in the morning? I mean,
I looked. I was actually, it was because it was Christmas. I had stayed at my parents' home, and I went and I did. I looked in their freezer, and there was alcohol, and I did have some, but I think at that point I was I don't know if I had alcohol poisoning, but for me, I couldn't keep drinking. Whenever I did drink, I would hit a wall where my body couldn't accept it anymore. It hurt. I didn't get the effect, and I had to stop. But so that specific morning, my brother came over to pick me up to go to our aunt's in Three Arch Bay, and I'm in my pajamas, and my plan is to say, I'm sick. He's like, Kelly, you're not sick. Mom told me, you drank too much last night. Get up, get dressed. I'm like, and I said, no, I can't, and I just came out. I need help. I've been drinking a lot, and he was kind of shocked. And that was the first time, both my dad came to my mom's house, and they came together to, what are we going to do? Like, how can we help you? And I went to South Coast Hospital. At the time, it was South Coast and Laguna Beach to detox. And I mean, that was the hospital I was born at.
Okay,
So it was a little like,
Wow.
it was, of course, extremely emotional. Here I am, Christmas. And I remember on the way there, my dad said, Kelly, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure? And I said, yes. He said, because once you do this, you can't go back. And I said, Dad, I want this out of me, and I never want to drink
Good for you.
again.
That's tough to get to that point. Not everyone can get to that point that easily.
Well, but that's, it sounds good, and I believed it, but I didn't know the power. I thought when I was there, they encouraged me to go to AA meetings, and oh no, I don't need that. I'm never going to drink again. And I guess the reason I'm bringing up this story is because the struggle with, having mental illness and being an alcoholic or if you abuse, whatever you abuse, drugs, whatever it is, combined with mental illness, I believe is, it's very challenging, because I've been in AA for a long time, and there are a lot of people who are in AA and are very successful, but they don't struggle with mental illness. Not to take away from their success.
More people struggle though than you might think. They may not tell about it, but some of them do. And then there's a lot of cross addiction in AA. Cross addicting can mean gambling,
Yes.
sexual addiction,
Shopping.
power drink addiction, shopping addiction, extreme sports.
I agree.
Yeah, so there is a lot of, I call this cross addiction, meaning not alcohol, but, and it's varied, and a lot of people in AA are smoking cigarettes, by the way.
Oh my gosh, that is one of my huge pet peeves. It's almost like it's promoted, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's an announcement,
Right.
So make sure you smoke in this area. Really? Like we're, aren't we promoting, health and cigarettes?
Yeah, when you bring it up, they'll say, "Oh, we're not here to talk about this. We're here to talk about alcohol. We're not here to talk about nicotine." So it's like, yeah, but arguably that's as bad or worse probably. Than,
oh my gosh!
And so,
yeah.
but anyways, it's something that kind of a pet peeve of mine too.
I agree. I have some pet peeves, with AA. There's people who are, hundreds of pounds overweight,
Right.
and and the steps are supposed to apply to really any. Anyway, that's a different subject, but so I left that 3-day detox, and my mom, who's amazing, comes and honey, like, come on, let's go, like you're cured, and let's go up to the mountains. My mom had a house up in Big Bear, and what was I look back and it's extremely. Gosh, I can't think of the word, but we went up to Big Bear, and I'm thinking, I'm not drinking. We, go into the house, and immediately I noticed the wine rack and the wine. And, yeah. And it's, I'm physically detoxed, but that mental obsession was there. And I'm like, God, I wish I could have that, And
you didn't have it?
No, I didn't for 2 days. It was, it's going to be New Year's. They all went to the resort, and I stayed back because I just, been taking benzos, whatever, Valium. And I went down to the liquor store and I bought O'Doul's, because I'm not going to drink, right? And I hid them. And, I'm sitting there drinking these O'Doul's, and but then, the next day it's New Year's, and now I'm sneaking it.
Yeah.
And I guess, the point of that story is that it's, like medicating with alcohol, taking care of the underlying condition as far as depression, anxiety is so important. I believe in whatever it is, a spiritual program, whether it's church, whether it's...
Whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works.
Yep.
But if you are depleted in areas chemically, it's a struggle. And I think that it's very important to address those things. And something that frustrates me with a lot of people feel this way. They don't want to take a pill. I don't want to take pills.
Well, they equate the pill with addiction. They go, I want to get addicted to pills. Well, they're not addictive, but people, you say, yeah, but people are on them for a while, but that's not addiction. That means that they're working.
Or I just don't want to take anything.
Right. And that's a very common.
Yes.
It's very, very difficult to break through that with a lot of people. They just decide that, they hear about it from a friend and, oh, don't do that. Or, they get bad advice from the wrong people. They go on the internet, whatever. They get just bad advice.
It's so unfortunate because if you are struggling with depression, anxiety, whatever mental illness, it's such an advantage to take advantage of science and what's offered out there is incredible, and it's to your detriment not to.
Tell me about ADD diagnosis. When was that diagnosed?
It's been like 2 years. 2 years about, and
by me.
Yes, yeah, of course.
But you've done really well with that, with treatment for that too.
I have. It has helped me. I was struggling with focusing on anything. My mind just
right. Right. So people don't understand with ADD medication. They think, number one, they're not addictive when you have ADD. That's number one. Number two is they actually calm the system. They actually have a calming effect, and people don't get that. They go, stimulants are going to get all jacked up. No, that's not how it works. When if that's the case, it's not the right diagnosis. You're going way too high in the dose. There's something wrong, because when you do it properly, like with you, it really helps with the antidepressants to kind of balance things.
It does. And when you said calming, sometimes I have to be careful because it will almost make me a little bit tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't get that whatever high energy effect. It's,
right.
I'm not cleaning the house or whatever I do. It just kind of it does mellow my.
Like a calm focus.
It's a calm focus. I can focus on tasks I need to get done, and it's helpful. It is.
Anything else you'd like to share with us today?
I just want to say thank you so much. I feel honored to be here. I've always advocated for you because you have made a significant difference in my life, and to anyone who's watching, I'm a sucker for infomercials. And I've had to learn, okay, Kelly, and so it's hard. It's hard to watch things and go, oh, well, I'm a skeptic, right? Like, oh, God, that's not going to work for me, If you're struggling with depression, whatever kind of mental illness or alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, oh my gosh, it's so worth it to set an appointment up with you. And I'm not, I'm not here to get paid or whatever. Maybe that sounds, I'm here because I truly believe in you, and I want other people to benefit from you. And I say that sincerely. It's what drives me. It's what drives me to see people, to continue this, to write, is the passion I have, and because stories like yours, what I see over and over again it inspires me. It's to keep going, even when times get hard. I mean, I just keep going because and people say, "Are you going to retire?" I'm not going to retire. I mean, I'm going to work until probably I might think about retiring in my 80s or something. But like my dad's 88 now and still not retired. I do it because like stories like yours, which I hear over and over again, and every story is a little different. Every person's different. Which is the trick of the medications, is trying to individualize and trying to find the right fit, the right combo, and then explaining like you said, these medications are not addictive, and people will take things. People think they are because they say, well, how can you prove it?
what's the test? Where's the blood test? Where's the this? But see, people will take a thyroid medication without thinking twice. People will take blood pressure medication, and they'll take it because their doctor said, and they won't question it too much. And they don't say, well, I don't want to get addicted to my blood pressure medication. They won't say, I don't want to get addicted to my insulin that I take to keep me alive with diabetes.
I agree.
They won't say that with anything else. But in this field of medicine, it's the only field where people just really question it.
Yeah, you question, why do I feel this way and
Right.
you don't?
Right.
Because it's, they're functioning, and I feel like people kind of blame themselves and think that they're responsible when, like you said, blood pressure medication or thyroid, whatever it is. If I truly believe if you're born with lower amounts of whatever it is, dopamine, serotonin,
and all that, yeah.
and like you said, you would take
Right.
any other medication, but why wouldn't you? And no one needs to know. It's not.
Right.
It's not anyone's business.
Unless
It's a personal
Unless
thing.
it finds your purse, like your mom. But what's also discouraging to me is, and a pet peeve of mine is the social media people, the influencers. Don't mean to pick on Joe Rogan because he's the biggest podcast in the country, but he's very anti-medication. And again, here's people who have no medical knowledge, but he has very strong opinions. And there's a lot of people like him, like Jack Tatum, and there's a lot of people who I actually really admire in certain ways. But they give this message that taking medications is a weakness. And Joe Rogan, though, everyone's got stress. Hey, if you have ADD, just try to focus better. And he's said these things, and it just irks me when I hear these things. So many people listen to you. You know how many people you're influencing right now?
It's irresponsible.
It's totally irresponsible. And so, but he thinks, again, I don't want to go on about that because I could just keep going on that subject because it makes me so angry. But I really appreciate you coming in and sharing your story, and I think it really will help people.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate all your help.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming, Kelly.
Of course. Thank you so much
All
for
right.
having me.
Take care. So in Kelly's case, she's on three things. She's on Effexor XR, which is, again, balances serotonin, norepinephrine. So those chemicals are now moving the right way, not the wrong way. Wellbutrin works a little bit on norepinephrine, mostly on dopamine. So that's getting dopamine. So that's what I call the dynamic duo. With a dynamic duo, you get all three the three main chemicals in balance. And in her case, she also has ADD. So being on a stimulant, it basically, so all three are moving the right way. But when you put the stimulant in place, it really gets things moving a lot better. And so with ADD, that's what they need, and that's why a stimulant helps with ADD, because it gets the chemicals moving better, and then they're able to focus and concentrate better. Without it, they'll feel better, the mood will be better, but then the functioning won't be as better. Like work will be more difficult, life is more difficult if you don't treat ADD. And in her case, that combination works perfectly for her.